saw a werewolf with the Chinese menu in his hand, walking through the streets of Soho in the rain. If you haven't guessed, today we're looking at Werewolves of London for the Spectrum, Amstrad CPC and Commodore 64. Programmed by Viz Design and originally going to be released by Soft, the game was advertised in magazines such as Computer and Video Games and all sorts of other magazines to be released Christmas '87, but it never came out. And that's because Soft went bust before they had a chance to duplicate any of the cassettes and release the game. So the game sat around for a year and Mastertronic picked it up and released it for not $2.99 but $1.99. Spectrum and Amstrad version came on the same tape, on the flippy thing that Mastertronic were doing in that time, and the Commodore 64 version was separate. We're going to start off by looking at the Spectrum version. Viz Design logo on the loading screen there that gives away its origins. Some people have suggested actually this game isn't quite complete, in that Soft went bust before the game was actually totally finished, so may not be complete. But let's have a look at it and see if we can see anything that shows that. Menu screen here with the usual options. Little beeper tune plays in the background there. And then when you get into the game, there's no sound other than the basic beeps and things that you get walking along. So we start off at night and the screen's red and also green in some of the other screens as well. And you can see you've got a little werewolf head there, and the indicator at the bottom right hand side of the screen there shows a cloud and a moon. We should change to daytime. Ah, there we go. So it's now daytime. We turned into a normal man. And that's the entrance to the park there. So we can walk into the park and see what's going on. What we've got to do in the game is kill, I think, 8 members of the family that have put a curse on you. They're all carrying crosses. The cross will start to flash beneath the status display there when they're nearby. And one thing that strikes you about the Spectrum version is there's not many people about. There we go, someone's on that screen there. But it's very empty, and now the status screen's flashing with the cross. So that means there's somebody about here somewhere carrying that cross. We've got to kill them. So skip forward a bit here. We've got to wait until night time. I can't turn into a werewolf until night time. So we're wandering around the park. There's a few more people around. It's got to be one of those, but the problem with the Spectrum being monochromatic, basically, is it's difficult to tell the people apart. So I think it's that bloke in the black top there. Yeah, it has to be. So what I've got to do is follow him, and that policeman there carrying that key, I can't kill him. What he will do is lock me up in a jail if he touches me when I'm a werewolf. Oddly enough, in all the versions, even if you commit murders in front of the police and it becomes daytime and you become a normal person again, they suddenly got no interest in you. Even though you've changed in front of them and they won't arrest you. So, still racing around after this guy here. And again, it gets a bit confusing now because there's 2 blokes on the screen with the same top and we change. Right. That should be him. Let's see if I can push up against him and press fire. Try and eat him. There we go. And another cross flashed there as well. So that means there could be someone else with a cross nearby. Must be him. This seems too easy. There are a few more people wandering around, but the Spectrum version is pretty sparse. I think you only get 4 sprites on one screen at any given time. As you commit more murders, the police will come after you. More police will come after you. Overall, the Specky version is okay. It's a bit spartan. I said earlier, some of these versions might not be finished, and I think possibly the Specky version isn't finished. I think they could have had a few more sprites wandering around and tested it a little bit more. Moving on to the Amstrad, and many people online are suggesting the Amstrad version is actually the lead version of Werewolves of London, which is very interesting. And we've got a much better theme tune here on the menu screen. and you actually get the Werewolves of London. It's not quite a rip-off of the Warren Zevon song, but it's close enough for you to know what it is. Nice Mode Naught graphics here on the Amstrad, very colourful. Again, we start off at night time, and the one thing on the Amstrad version is you have the music running the entire time. There's different themes playing for daytime and nighttime, which is quite nice. So I'm going to try and kill that bloke there. I think I did. Couldn't quite see what I was doing. Police shoot at you if they've got guns, or as I said earlier, if they've got keys, they arrest you. Nice decapitation there. It's really gruesome. Really lovely. And I picked up a tube ticket there. If the bullets hit you, start to bleed and lose blood from that blood blag on the bottom left-hand side of the screen there. As I said, you can murder people, and as soon as it becomes daytime and you change back, the police aren't interested, even if you murder them in front of them. Same screen layout as the Specky version. So I've progressed a little bit further here. I've killed 2 members of the family, and I'm just going to go down to the tube there using my tube ticket. There's no actual trains in the game, but what we can do is jump down onto the track and walk between the stations if you've got the torch. That bandage should stem the dropping of the blood there because I've been shot. And bandages can generally be found in the tube stations. So just wandering on here on the tube. Another bandage there. Lady wandering around. I've jumped down onto the track there. Don't want to get electrocuted. If you come... Oh dear, I have got electrocuted. So right, use the torch, and now I can walk between stations. What this lets you do is... Werewolves of London is split up into zones, or this isn't immediately apparent, and the only way to get between some of the zones is to use the tube or go down into the sewers. Got to jump off the track there. You'll get to a point where you can't get any further within a particular area because you've killed everyone you need to, and there's no more screens that you can seemingly get to. And the way around that is, as I say, to go down the tube tracks and go to another one of the zones, and there we go, we've got another cross flashing there already, or go down into the drain. So it's got to be that lady there. But again, it's daytime. The good thing about the Amstrad version being in 16 colour mode is you get the differentiation between the characters you're trying to kill because they've got different coloured clothes on. On the Specky, it's a bit difficult sometimes to see who they are. Right, got that, and there's a little hook thing down there that will let me go into the drains, but I'm going to have to run away because on the Amstrad version, the police are really hot, especially as you get further into the game, about attending a murder scene. So I'm back here, and suddenly the place is crawling with police. So I've got to avoid him, go back. Oh. So you've really got to kind of get away from them. There is massive slowdown on the Amstrad version. There's up to 8 sprites on the screen at any one time, but it really slows down. I picked up the drain thing there. Might need that later to go down into the drains. Oh, he's shooting at me. The police become more ferocious as the game goes on. This game is... It reminds you of Grand Theft Auto because you can wander around and kill people and get up to all sorts of antics in the game. And it's free roaming. You can play the game, you can wander around doing whatever you want to do, really. And there's not as much scope as in, say, GTA, but even so, for a game of this era on the Amstrad, to be able to wander around freely and do whatever you want and complete the game in any order you want to do, it's absolutely brilliant. There is that GTA thing of going on rampages to see how many people you can kill before the night is out, and the police do get more keen to chase you. So I'm trying to make my escape from the tube station here, and they're piling down there, getting really busy now, and they're all shooting at me, and I'm jumping over the barrier to get out because I don't have a ticket. And they have hit me. And now I'm outside here, trying to make my escape. So a bit of slowdown there. We're only on 4 sprites there. But when you get to 8 sprites on the screen, it really, really slows down. It's such a fun game. It's much better than the Spectrum version. There's so much more scope because there's more characters on the screen. And the music really adds atmosphere to it, and the extra colour is the difference between night and day. I mean, I'm really going on a rampage here. 2, 3, 4 killings on one screen. And it's going to change the daytime. Really slowed down. And suddenly, all the police are here. 4 bodies on the pavement. They're not taking a blind bit of notice of me. And that's really slow now. But you can forgive it because it's so nice to have so many characters on the screen compared to the Spectrum version. It makes the game feel so much busier and the action's so much more frantic. And don't forget, this was $1.99. This wasn't a $9.99 on tape, $14.99 on disc game. This was $1.99. Mastertronic could have put this out at $2.99 and I'd still think it was absolutely fantastic and the best value for money ever. This is a full price game at the cost of a budget game. It's not a re-release. Moving on to the Commodore 64, and one of these things I was saying about the Amstrad being the lead version, if you notice on the menu screen there, it says the Commodore 64 version is a conversion by source. Copyright 1988 Viz Design. SID version of the theme tune that we heard on the Amstrad. Don't quite like it as much, it just sounds a little bit muted. And the graphics are Commodore 64 versions of the Amstrad graphics, but here's the thing. The police are... I'm already in jail there. The police are very aggressive when you start off on the Commodore 64 version. Incredibly aggressive. And you haven't even committed any murders. On the Amstrad version, yes, there's police wandering around with the handcuffs or the keys to arrest you. But on the Commodore 64 version, there's loads of them around at the beginning of the game. So I've restarted the game. That guy in there in the blue has a cross, I reckon. Yeah, so I've killed him. It's still nighttime, and the Spectrum and Amstrad version will be changing to daytime about now. On the C64, it's still nighttime, and there's all these police with the keys or handcuffs or whatever they are wandering around. None of them with the guns that you see in the other version, all the ones that can knock you up. And it's nearly impossible to avoid them. I'm going to try hide up here, and can I get off? I can't go left. I'm going to end up being locked up again, aren't I? Having so many police wandering around that can knock you up compared to the guns changes the nature of the game. It goes from being a frantic chase about to you're banged up again and you've got to find your way back across the zones because the jail zone is again on a different section of the map. So it really messes it around. I don't know why the people doing the C64 conversion have done this. And I'm going to try and jump off the roof here. It's going to cost me some energy, but... So I lose a bit there. The Commodore 64 version's okay, but it's not the conversion it could be. If they just copied the Amstrad version exactly, it would be a fantastic game. But they fiddle around with it, and they presumably think they made it better, but they haven't. They've just made it less fun, less frantic, and more frustrating because you just end up being locked up the entire time. The Spectrum version of Werewolves of London is a good game, but it's a little bit sparse and it needs more characters in the game. If any of the versions is unfinished, then it's got to be the Spectrum version because there's no real reason why there should be such a limitation on the number of sprites on the screen. The Amstrad version is absolutely brilliant. It's really, really good. It's enormous fun. It's the kind of fun you have today with games like Grand Theft Auto. You can roam around freely. The more crimes you commit, the more the police come after you. There's a little bit of intelligence about how the police work because they gather around the murder scenes. So if you accidentally end up doubling back on yourself, it gets frantic and you run into the police again. But overall, it's an absolutely brilliant game. Commodore 64 version, yeah, if you've got a C64, play it. I really wish they'd just done a straight conversion of the Amstrad, so Commodore 64 owners could have as much fun as the Amstrad owners. Overall, on all three versions, you can't really lose. It's an original, full-price game, on budget, not for $2.99 but for $1.99. You couldn't really argue with that. And today, especially on the Amstrad, it's a really good play.